Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto and Naruto Next Generation discussion on the fallout from Boruto chapter 80. And now that we know what the Boruto time skip is coming in the next Boruto manga chapter, I wanted to touch on a Boruto fan theory that was submitted to me by one of you guys over on Twitter that honestly has a ton of ramification for Kawaki's character if this ends up panning out, and it would be the most ironic thing that we have seen given how it will actually parallel something we saw from Naruto's manga. So according to them, their theory is that Boruto is going to be the one who comes out of the time skip much further ahead than Kawaki, despite at the end of the time skip in Boruto Part 1, Kawaki was the one further ahead of Boruto Uzumaki. Their reasoning is pretty simple. It's due to the circumstances that both characters find themselves in. They say that unless Kawaki is able to go to another dimension to train himself without anyone seeing him, he won't be able to freely use the abilities of Ishiki because it would be a huge giveaway that something wasn't right. Their reasoning is that Sasuke was perplexed about sensing Momoshiki inside of Boruto, and they say anyone who is familiar with Ishiki's abilities or has been briefed on them, basically someone like Shikamaru or Sakura, and they see Kawaki or they hear Kawaki has a similar ability, they're going to know that something is up and Kawaki's lie is going to be in danger. They say that for this reason alone, Kawaki's training is about to be handicapped because he's going to want to keep up the lie that he is Naruto's son, whereas Boruto is away from the village with no restrictions on his training with Sasuke. They also say that Boruto gets another added bonus of getting further amps if Code is the one actively chasing after Boruto and Sasuke during that time skip. Between Sasuke training Boruto and the active combat experience that Boruto might be getting if Code is indeed making his move, they say that this would be enough to make Boruto massively stronger than before. Now, I wanted to cover this fan theory partially because it's been a minute since I've done one that wasn't submitted to me by someone that was on Patreon, but also because when I went through my DMs and I looked at suggestions, this was one that I saw and I said there might be some issues with this, but there's enough here where if this does happen, I wouldn't be against it and it would actually make a lot of sense. We all have seen the ignorant memes of Jiraiya was a bad teacher because whereas Sasuke came out the time skip with 9 million new jutsu and leveled up to a Kage level in 2.5 years worth of training, Naruto by comparison just got his base to being at a Jonin level and all he could make was a giant Rasengan and he learned how to break out a Genjutsu, so people trashed Jiraiya, which video coming soon on that, I do not agree with that take. But just as Naruto came out of the time skip and at face value underwhelmed a lot of fans, the idea of Kawaki, someone who is obsessed with Naruto, coming out of the time skip underwhelmed as well, is something that I find to be a bit fascinating when we look at it. Boruto training under Sasuke likely means we can expect his combat skills to pick up because we saw just what Sasuke training Boruto sporadically was able to do for him, and the only thing that Boruto might be behind Kawaki on is his ability to properly use karma and fully pull out Momoshiki's power and combat experience. However, the idea of Kawaki being limited because he cannot freely train to use his powers due to tipping off someone is something I find fascinating for one reason. He basically would have to go to another dimension or find some place where he can't be watched in order to train without others seeing him, because otherwise they would see him using powers that he shouldn't actually have. At the same time though, if we take Sasuke at his words that the shinjutsu as time actually goes by makes him look past things that he knows should be wrong, if Kawaki waits enough time, he can merely start using Ishiki's powers to openly train without getting any suspicion, because the shinjutsu literally tells people to accept the things that they know should be wrong and just accept them anyway. That's something that is open-ended enough to go either way. Either people accept it or someone is able to find a loophole and begin to question it without directly going against the shinjutsu like Sasuke did. Either path is available from a writing perspective, and it's just messy enough that it can cause conflict depending on how the situation itself is written. However, I do think that if this viewer is correct, this provides just enough of a door for Boruto to catch Kawaki that it makes instant drama and begins to start leveling the playing field some. The idea of Boruto catching up to Kawaki despite Kawaki having to have a head start and Kawaki only having the edge because he's the only one who can properly use karma is something that both shows Boruto's growth as well as gives us readers something else to root for, with Boruto and our hero having another dragon to slay on his path to returning home as a hero hero who saved the village and gets their memories reversed via the shinjutsu. That would also set the stage for a bit of irony as well, because Kawaki wants so badly to be in Naruto's world. He's pretending to be his son, yet his reaction is going to be the same that is closer to Sasuke's was when he saw Naruto in Naruto's manga. The growth rate that Naruto made caused Sasuke to get even more obsessed with power, and it blinded him to his own stunning growth as a shinobi, which is something I could see happening with Kawaki as well. When you really think about their dynamic, that was the major thing that was separating them. Boruto was significantly better at all things ninja arts than Kawaki, but Kawaki was better at using the karma because one was brought up to be a ninja and the other one was brought up to be the perfect vessel. Having to see Boruto make such a rapid growth would be something that definitely sets Kawaki off. However, just training with Sasuke alone won't be enough to get Boruto over that hump. Both are geniuses, but when it comes to using the karma, they're both flying blind, which is something that I find interesting because of the impact that it would have on the narrative moving forward. Could they get super close to figuring out the true mechanics of karma? Absolutely, but they likely fall short. However, the fan theory suggestion of Code battling Boruto is something I do think has some narrative potential here. They're currently on the run, and Code is gonna target Boruto since in Code's mind, Boruto's now what Kawaki was. If he sees Boruto away from the village, it would make sense for him to go after Boruto because he planned to confront Ada and Damon once he became a fully fledged Otsutsuki. So if he sees Boruto's gone, he's just going to jump right at it because in his mind, Ada is in love with Boruto. And if Ada and Damon aren't around and the only person that Code has to worry about is Sasuke, he's going to take the opportunity when it arises. Now, we as the audience know that Code's mind's been altered and that Ada is with Kawaki because she's the one in love with Kawaki and Boruto isn't the one that Code should be giving chase after. Again, that's dramatic irony. We know something that characters in universe don't know. That would be a good benchmark if we learn that Boruto and Sasuke had some clashes with Code's claw grimes and they narrowly escaped, which would make up for the lack of Konoha chasing after Boruto because Ada's not going to use her Shinrigan to track them down. That could be something that works, and based off of what we've seen in Boruto when it comes to shinobi training, he's more than content sitting there and learning jutsu super fast because it's what he was raised to do. It was in his genetics. It's an aptitude that he inherited from his grandfather Minato, but using the power of karma properly is something he's mostly shown the ability to do when he's made aware that he's doing it incorrectly and then being thrust into a combat situation. His combat training with Naruto and Kawaki didn't truly bear fruit until Kawaki started activating karma for Boruto, and Boruto through battle situations with Naruto and Kawaki was able to learn to enter it into on his own, and by the time he fought against Boruto, he was going into karma without any assistance. By the time Boruto and Kawaki are fighting against Code, he's been corrected and made aware of the fact that he's been using karma incorrectly, which led to an incomplete true essence karma seal Boruto, who was able to tap into more Momoshiki's power, manifest Momoshiki's Byakugan, but he still had a ways to go. We saw by the rematch with Kawaki right before the time skip that he's able to generate more of that power on his own, now being able to use a giant Rasengan, but he still has a ways to go, and combat situations might be what brings out Boruto's power in the best way, a true life or death situation. That would be something that gives us fodder, especially for the anime when the anime does decide to come back and potentially show what transpired during the time skip instead of just skipping right over it. Regardless if either of these situations occur and Kawaki isn't maximizing his training of his Otsutsuki powers due to those circumstances, it at the very least allows him to be held back enough that people like Sarada and Sumire who are training to try and stop him now have a chance to close the gap, as well as for someone like Code to fortify his defenses even more and potentially give Kawaki more trouble as well. I'll be curious to see if there are any holdbacks for Kawaki. Personally, I'm not sold on this idea, but I do think it's not a bad idea per se, and I do think that if this is how it goes down, it creates a ton of conflict from a narrative perspective, and it's a realistic semi-nerf that leads to Kawaki breaking through his limit yet again in order to serve as a better antagonist for Boruto, which I'll say again for the people who still get worked up and they say that I'm calling Kawaki evil, I'm merely labeling the guy an antagonist, a morally gray one at that. Not calling him evil, but to troll, I might just have Kawaki drawn as Mao Zedong, the Chinese dictator who killed 70 million people, since there are still people pissed off I had Kawaki drawn as Hitler as a joke. That being said, where do you guys fall on this fan theory? While you think that over, click here to check out my Black Clover chapter 366 review.